Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Summit Experience. I'm going to be talking about an epiphany I had today, surprisingly. Um, uh, I was sleeping last night into this morning. I woke up and I was watching a Chinese drama, wuxia fighting, people flying, that kind of shit. I was watching that last night, and and I fell asleep. And then I woke up this morning, and on my phone, I went on my Google, and I don't know, I just do that a lot of times, log into my email, but I have the apps. But I don't know why I went on my Google. That was one of the, like, I literally woke up, and then I went on my phone almost immediately. And on the page that was open was Shakti. And I've been doing research on Shakti, on different ideas of cosmic energy and creationism for my novel. And that was months ago that I went into this. One of my characters, one of my main characters is Indian, Arya Kadari. That's the name of one of my main characters in my novel. It's a fictional novel and whatnot. So, while I opened my Google, and that was a very first, like that. It was a Wikipedia page on Shakti, which is the Hinduism, Tantricism, I believe should be the right word. Tantric, methodical tantric and whatnot. Is that to them is their definition of God? Actually is a goddess. Is a female entity, is a female goddess, the ultimate goddess, the mother of all cosmic energy. She's more of an energy than she's a person. It's more of an energy of birthing than a person. So it's not really like a deity, but it's more of what makes everything. It will be considered Shakti, the cosmic energy of everything. Beyond this planet, we're talking the cosmos, we're talking the entire universe as we know it. So, and what we don't even know. So that would be what they would call Shakti energy. And it's feminine. And the reason I feel like this is so important to talk about, because I started getting a lot of downloads of information really early in the morning, and I was vibrating high. And you guys know when I start vibrating high, I get really excited. You guys have seen me like vibrating, and I start panicking, and my hands are shaking. I get really excited when I get certain kind of information, because it really opened up my eyes as to pertaining to the whole soulmate. But what I really wanted to talk about was also the twin flame dynamic of things. And everybody that's following my channel knows that I always say, to me, they're all soulmates. I don't believe in the definition, the dividing agent of twin flames, and soulmates and whatnot. I believe they're all soulmates. Now, with Shakti, she comes with a masculine aspect as well, which is the Shiva. Shiva, some of you are familiar with Shiva. You would know he's a god that is worshipped all over India. Hinduism is the primordial god of Hinduism. So when we're talking about Shakti, but Shakti came first. And so Shiva is like a dormant form of Shakti, which is just energy. But when energy starts to transmute into matter, so the transmutation of energy into matter is where Shakti comes in. Shiva is just a dormant form of energy, just latent form of energy. And when I got that epiphany, one of the things, and I was trying to make sense of it, because I was getting this downloaded into me, and I was trying to make sense of it. And one thing I always do is I start to write down questions that I might have to ask, or I start to verbalize questions. And when I verbalized what the real difference was between the two, what I got was that the human man, for example, and I got something about, and this is not for the faint-hearted, we're going to talk about genitals here. The male genital, the seed, the man by himself is without way of creation. The man cannot birth. The man cannot create. He has creative agency. His seed, semen, sperm, it's void of power as long as it's just dormant in a way. Ejaculation does not bring forth birth. Ejaculation into fertile soil brings forth birth. And the carrying process and everything that happens after that process is entirely the woman. The creationism of the species is the woman's. And why that, I don't know why it rung so high. Like now I'm trying to connect to that feeling again, but I can't. That's why I like to do the videos when I'm feeling, like you guys will see me like doing videos when I'm feeling things, and I try to get it across as soon as possible, because a lot of times when you're that high, the information comes in much clearer. And sometimes people will ask questions to me, like even before watching the video, I'll get questions that people are asking, and then I'll answer them. And then they'll say, oh, I was just thinking this in my head, and there it goes. That question got answered because I'm connected to the cosmic at that point. But now that I'm disconnected, it's been hours since that. I woke up around like 8 a.m. It's now it's almost 3 p.m. So it's been hours and hours, and I was trying to do it a different way, where I was going to do like an interview type of situation, but that didn't really work out. But anyways, so that Shakti energy, how it connects to the divine feminine and the divine masculine aspect, is one thing that really hit me. And this is not anything new. Anybody that has been following my channel knows that this is not anything new. And I've talked, and this is again another reason why I don't really necessarily believe that there is a specific subgroup of people that are twin flames, and there's a specific subgroup of people, because we are all going through that process. We're all going through it. All that it is really karma, is karmic cleansing. So the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and this is where it really hits, in the embodiment of when Shakti comes into form, physical form or whatever you want to call it, as matter, she's embodied into two different forms. She embodies herself in two different forms, which would be a masculine and a feminine. And those are the primordial masculine and divine feminine that we always talk about. And that's where the birth, and I believe that's where the notion, because if you really think about it, guys, and you can do research on this, the twin flame perspective and the ideology is a fairly new ideology. The soulmate ideology goes back thousands of years. We're talking Helen of Troy, thousands of years. But then a few thousand years, I guess. But then when you talk about the twin flame, you will notice that it's something that's been around, 200 years. That notion of twin flames is something that's very new. And I believe it was birthed out of this idea of the primordial masculine and feminine that form the singularity. And that's what I wanted to talk about as well. The singularity is you. And this is something I've been thinking. I've meditated on this stuff, and I've been getting downloads, but I've never had proof, like tangible proof, that I could actually say, okay, think of it this way: Shakti and Shiva, and these two this energetic forces, the embodiment of it, but at the primordial, most natural state of just pure vibration, is all entirely Shakti. And that's why even in the twin flame soulmate relationships, again, I would say soulmate, people that are going through soulmate relationships, and I've talked about this months ago on the channel, where I said that you will notice that the divine feminine is the one that is a pursuant of the divine masculine. And then you look at the dynamic between Shiva and Shakti, and you notice that Shiva, the masculine embodiment, is a dormant energy. It's energy that has not been used. And then again, going back to that whole creationism, procreation, even in the embodiment of, in the physical realm, in our physical bodies, the man and the woman, and how they can create and procreate. You will notice that the creationism is the woman's job, is the woman's aspect of a thing. And bringing things to fertility is a woman's job, even in the physical embodiment of Shakti, of energy, of cosmic force. So when you look at the divine feminine and divine masculine, and this is another thing I wanted to touch on. Guys, spiritism makes sense. Magic is science that has just not been discovered yet. I really do believe that. Spiritism always makes sense. It might not make sense to us now. It might not make sense to us in the next 5 years. It might not make sense to us in the next 1 million years. But it always makes sense. And that's why it's so important. And I always say this, and I always say this. It's so important to really be able to tap into the cosmic energy yourself, especially as a spiritism or as a spiritual leader or something of that sort, as opposed to reading 1,000,001 books. Because so much gets sieved and shifted, what's the word I'm looking, shifted, along the way of the knowledge being passed down from generation to generation, or the knowledge being passed down from teacher to student. So much is not told, and so much is in its raw form as you will get from source yourself. And I always tell people, you want to meditate on things and not just read the books and take everybody else's ideology as yours. Because now it's like this morning, I felt like my head was going to explode. I was getting so many downloads, and I finally understood why I've always had that perspective, first of all, on the twin flames, and on the idea that the divine masculine is separate from you. The divine masculine is not separate from you. The divine masculine is not a different aspect of you. The divine masculine, and what the soulmate relationship is really aiming to do, is to bring the union. And actually, just yesterday or 2 days ago, I talked about this on my channel, about how I learned so much from my soulmate relationship and so much of my karma. And I really learned. But what it aims to do, and the healing that happens, and the enlightenment that comes forth, and it really helps you to create grand fits, is the binding, the culmination point of your masculine and your feminine points. Because keep in mind, Shiva and Shakti are a singularity. It is one person entirely. It is one cosmic energy force entirely. They might have their differences where they are one, when they are manifested in physical form, there are a singularity. The male is not different from the female. That's why Shakti, when it manifests, can manifest as a male, which would be Shiva, or a deity or a spiritual entity adjacent to Shiva. And then when it manifests as a female, it could be Brahman. Is it Brahman? Braham? Or something of that sort. I'm trying to remember the names. But it was just... It's just weird when I get downloads like that, because it was so precise. And I'm trying to tap into that feeling right now that I got earlier. And the message just came up so strongly that it is actually the idea that we have, and so much has been filtered out of it. And I was really trying to get this message out to the twin flame community and the people that are going through that karmic cleansing, that soulmate bond, and to really understand that there is a calling, but the calling is not your twin flame. And the calling, or the person you consider your twin flame or your divine masculine, the calling is not those people. The calling is for you. And you meet them and you ignite them and they ignite you. That's why, again, I've been saying for months now that it's all just soulmate relationships. You meet them, you ignite them, they ignite you. The purpose that you're supposed to serve on this earth, and that culmination point that you've gotten to, of the healing, or the grand explorations and the grand healing of the world that you're supposed to do, is a singular objective. It could be that you each reach that objective individually, and then you come into union, and there's the bonding, and then you decide to do it together. But it is a singular purpose, because the male, Shakti and Shiva, are within you. It is a singularity. It's not about your soulmate. It's not about your divine masculine, your divine feminine, your divine this, your divine that. It's about you coming into the divine feminine and divine masculine within yourself. And again, this is something I just expressed about myself. And even though I didn't use those terms, and because I didn't yet have the download, but I just did a video about 2 days ago on this same channel, wearing the same t-shirt. I think yesterday or 2 days ago that I wore the same t-shirt. And I talked about this, how I learned so much about myself, and I came into union with myself by really, and releasing the karma, of course, so that I can be reborn and born again, and really coming into that understanding and that knowledge that they were not my happily ever after. I was. They were not my happily ever after. I was. And as soon as I got that message, and there's a freeing agent, and there's this kind of unstoppable energy that comes with that knowledge. I'm trying to describe how I'm feeling, like, because I've shared it before on the channel. I'm an empath. Not psychic, I have visions sometimes, and whatever else. But really, to come into, to really have that understanding, and I feel things as an empath. So it's not always so easy for me to feel. I'm not, audio clairvoyant. I don't necessarily hear words, but I get feelings, and then the feelings translate themselves in my brain. I can't really explain it, but they translate themselves into words sometimes. Sometimes I have to kind of dig them out and try to understand what they mean. So I'm trying to explain the feeling I got. It was not about individualism. It was not about another individual. It was more about individualism within the collective. It was about coming into your individual knowledge while still being completely aware of the collective. It's like being a cell in a body. That individual cell, but still being aware that the whole body is made of cells. Does that make sense? But all the cells are connected and they all interact and they're all... This is how I explained it to my dad. The human body, God, what I look at as God, or what would be Shakti, would be the body. Because you keep in mind again, we are the universe and the universe is us. We're not outside of the universe. We're not inside of the universe. We are the universe. The whole human body, the way, the 7 chakra points, they're all in alignment. You will notice them over and over again in different things and different aspects and different sequences and ratios of the universe and the ethers, and what kind of planet can sustain life and what kind of planet can't sustain life, and what is the ability to be receptive to life and receptive to light and absorb light and all that kind of stuff. So let's say, for example, I give my dad an example, and I told my dad this about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I said, how I see it, actually it's not been up to a week. And I told my dad, it's been like a little bit over a week, because that's when I was already in Dallas. So it's been a week or so. And we had a conversation about spirituality. And I told my dad, the way I see it is that the human body when you look at the entirety of the body, it's God. And a lot of the, what we call the divine beings, ascended masters, blah, 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 Jesus, Buddha, I say, to me, what they represent is vital organs. They will be like vital organs that keep the body functioning. Like, for example, you can't live without a liver, or you won't be able to survive without a disc. You won't be able to survive without, the brain excreting certain kind of, first of all, interacting within itself and excreting certain kind of chemicals that trigger the body to grow and to stop growing and to, going through puberty. Now time to make more hair. Now time to push out the boobs. Now she can have a baby. So let's give her, eggs, and, she starts bleeding every month. And there's a sequence and seasoning to the way it functions. So the deities that we consider, deities, they act as the vital organs of the body. But God itself is the entirety of the body. And humans, I always say, are like stem cells. And well, I don't always say, but I said to my dad, are like stem cells. What is a stem cell? A stem cell is a cell that is made by the body that can become any one of other, depending on what the body needs at that time, can become any one kind of cell and can function in just about every part of the body, So in other words, a stem cell is a clean slate. And depending on where it's being sent into the body, it can become a white blood cell, it can become a red blood cell, it can become a this, it can become a that, it can become skin, it can become, the stem cell creates it as it's birthed into the body or birthed through whatever process. I don't really know the clinical terms. I'm not trying to talk about this too much. But as it goes through whatever transition it's going through, it goes to where it's needed, per se. But when the stem cell itself, what is called the stem cell, is just pure unidentified cell, unidentified energy. And that's how we human beings are born. And as we're going through our life, and as we're going through our karma, or we're going through our when we're birthed into the world, that's when the journey really begins. And we start to decide whether we become a white blood cell or a black blood or red blood cell, or, where do we fit in? How do we function? So we're all born as stem cells. So I'm trying to explain it. It's not always easy to explain. I had an idea of how I was going to do it, but that didn't work out. So I'm trying to put it into make it as simplified as possible. But the main thing I wanted to talk about was the realization and the really understanding and the physical proof that I have, or at least a tangible proof, somewhat of a tangible proof, to say that I'm not crazy. And funny enough, Shakti, the belief system in Shakti in India, with Sanskrit and all that, goes back over what they said the earliest fossilized evidence they found of Shakti goes back over 10,000 years, which is more than most religions have been alive. Well, What am I saying? Which is more than most parent religions have been alive. I mean, 10,000 years. We're talking 8,000 BC, 8,000 BCE, before Christ. That's before the Egyptian Empire even was birthed. That was around 4,000 BC, if I'm not mistaken. 5,000, 4,000 BC or something of that sort. That is, the Egyptian empire has really started growing and becoming big. But the knowledge of Shakti and the fossilized evidence of the belief in Shakti was found in the Sun River and goes back over 8,000 BCE. So I'm trying to put it I'm trying to understand, I'm trying to get you guys to feel what I felt when I got that download of information. Out of nowhere, I wake up and then I just have it on my phone right there. Shakti, Wikipedia page on Shakti. I haven't researched this. I was researching it for my novel, but that was the beginning of the year. And all of a sudden, and I was watching, I know what I was watching before I went to sleep, and it's a Chinese drama called Legend of Fu Yao. Legend of Fu Yao. I was watching it on Viki app. And I fell asleep watching it, and I remember because I woke up at 2 a.m. because we were fighting, and he woke me up, and I turned it off, and I went back to sleep. I just turned it off, and I went back to sleep. And then I wake up this morning, and I look at my phone, and my page it's somehow opened on the Wikipedia page of Shakti. And I started looking through it, and there's something that Oprah talks about a lot, and she said, every time I'm going through an experience that I feel, odd about, one of the first things I do is ask myself, what is the lesson here? And that's something I've started doing a lot with myself. When I'm going through something and I stop before I panic, before I do anything, and I say, what is the lesson here? What is this trying to teach me? What is this? I ask myself those kind of questions. And it doesn't mean that the feelings go away or the panic goes away or the stress goes away or the excitement goes away. But it just means that I'm now moving forward through this process, understanding that there's a lesson and looking for the lesson. And a lot of times the lesson will come to you very blindly. Sometimes the lesson will not come for another 1 week, 2 weeks, maybe a month. And then you go, so that was a lesson. But today I had that moment and I stopped and I said, this was not it. So I actually didn't even open my Google. Earlier I said I opened my Google. I actually didn't even open my Google. My phone has a fingerprint, you can put your finger on it and it opens a tab. And I just put my finger on it and it unlocked the phone. And right there was just this Wikipedia, Shakti. And I'm not going to say it's not something I've ever heard before, I've never seen before, because I was aware of it. But I did research on that months ago for my novel. Months ago, researching Indian deities for my novel. Months ago. I haven't even thought about it at all in months, because I've already decided how the novel is supposed to go. So when that came up, I knew almost immediately that there was a lesson there. And then as soon as I gave into that, what is a lesson I'm trying to learn here, the information just started coming, it was bombarding me. And it was just the divine masculine, divine feminine, the dormant seed in the masculine energy the masculine energy is dormant. And again, it's something I've talked about on the channel. When you're in a soulmate relationship and there's the divine feminine and divine masculine and whatnot, you will notice that the divine feminine, and I've said this before, the divine feminine is the one that always goes and chases the other person, whether you're male or female. Unfortunately, that also means that most times the divine feminine will be found in the female, because the female is generally naturally born with divine feminine energy. And it also goes into saying that the divine a lot of times when you have people that are very transgendered, maybe I might offend someone by saying this, but I feel maybe when you have people that are transgendered, so let's say you're a female but you don't feel comfortable in a female's body, a lot of times I feel there are two things that are going on. It's a residual energy from your past life, and it's also an imbalance in your Shakti-Shiva, male, yin yang, male, female, divine feminine. There's an imbalance in it. So when you're born female and you feel like you're supposed to be a man, or you're born man and you feel like you have to be a woman, a lot of times it has to do with your past life situation. And because of that, maybe your rebirth process maybe was rushed, or you weren't supposed to, because I believe there's a cleansing that happens to help us forget the past life and to release ourselves and our minds and our knowledge of our past life. And when we're reborn, we're born anew, a stem cell. But of course, the stem cell also goes. Stem cell still has what? It still has some DNA traits within it. I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, I believe so. So yeah, the stem cell does have the person's DNA traits, and that's why a lot of times before they do like stem cell transference from one person to another, they have to get a sibling. You know, for people that have gone through like say lupus or I think some forms of cancer or some forms of they have to get like and they'll need to get like a sibling to get the stem cell from the person. I don't know if all of this is making sense. Like I'm trying to break it down as simply and as because I'm trying to ground the information to make it practical in a way that people can understand. And maybe I'm not gonna hit every point right, but I'm trying to ground the information to move it from the ethers. Because not everybody's in the ethers and nobody's going to understand the ethers. But I'm trying to give practical examples, using the physical human body and all that kind of stuff so that you guys can kind of understand how the process works. But that's what I've gotten with the twin flame dynamic. And again, you will notice that the female, the divine feminine, and I've said this before months ago on my channel, that the divine feminine is the one that's understanding, while the divine masculine is dormant in the knowledge of the soulmate relationship and the soulmate bond. And you will notice that the person that manifests as the divine feminine will be the person that's chasing, because she's the one trying to create, because that's her calling to create. So now when you have that imbalance in your Shakti-Shiva, now the process now is to balance it out where your divine masculine and your divine feminine become. And it's same for the person who is your soulmate as well. So that's just telling me another aspect of the soulmate union and the understanding and the combination. And everybody's going to have a soulmate relationship. Everybody's going to have that twin flame, relationship. Everybody on this planet. If not in this lifetime, but I believe we all go through it in different variations. There are stages to it. So one person could be at the beginning stages, another person could be at the ending stages before they're reborn, and they go back into becoming energy, and then they're reborn into matter again. Because remember, it's a cycle. It's cyclical. It's all cycling itself. Energy is simply cycling itself. First law of physics: you can't destroy energy. You can't create energy. You can only change its form. First law of physics. I'm trying to put it in words, and I really hope it makes sense. This is not how I was planning on doing it, but I'm so happy that I got that information, and I'm so happy that I got to share it. And yeah, so I hope that gives someone enlightenment, and please, share this. Well, you don't have to, but with people that are going through twin flame relationships and soulmate relationships, I think it's going to help some of them in their process of healing and their process of balancing their Shakti-Shiva energies and really coming into the primordial Shiva energy. But while you're in the physical, you can never reach the full Shiva, the supreme Shiva, which is that of creationism. But you can get into the union, because remember, again, when Shiva manifests into the physical, into matter, she shows up as Shiva and Shakti, which is where we have the union of the Shakti-Shiva, which is the divine feminine and the divine masculine. So I think it's going to help a lot of people through their transitioning and their journey. So thank you guys so much for being here. I can only wish you the best, and I hope that I helped somebody. Anything else I want to say? Yeah, so stay blessed and stay healed, and I love y'all. Have a blessed one. Bye-bye.